Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It has been a very exciting week, and Microsoft Build is imminently upon us. It is next week. So, if you are watching this after, we'll say, May 19th, no stream that week because I will be gone to Build. But if you are going to be at the conference, please come and find me. On that note, exciting stuff. Oop, wrong tab. There we go. Look. It's me! I will be speaking at Build. Now, admittedly, this is a small community session that won't even be recorded, but darn it, I am speaking at Build. My name is on the speakers list, so that's kind of cool and exciting. I am thrilled to death. So unfortunately, if you aren't in person, this one will not be available to virtual attendees. But if you are unable to be in person, I do still strongly recommend people sign up. It is free for virtual attendees, and you get access to all of the sessions, or at least you get access to a significant number of the sessions, which there's lots of great information that is going to be shared there. It is going to be a bit weird for people who haven't heard. Microsoft did a massive round of layoffs this week, and so it is a bit unclear as to how that is going to affect things. So, yeah, the people I talked to from Microsoft or former Microsoft, things are a little bit up in the air at the moment. But I can assure you that Build is definitely still going to be very exciting and will be filled with a bunch of AI-related stuff. Next, Spokane.net user group. I am speaking yet again at the .NET user group. So this is June 3rd, 2025, 5 p.m. This is Pacific. If you are not local to the area, this will be streamed online. If you at least sign up, just so if you're going to be in person, so that we have a head count. They do often have some snacks and food and whatnot. So if we know how many chairs and people we're feeding, that's helpful. That's great. If you are remote and you don't feel like actually signing up, you can technically just catch the stream over on Intellitek's YouTube channel, which is where it's going to end up actually being live streamed out to as well. The other thing, Intellitek Copilot, I think this will land me on it. Boom, there we go. For people who are local to the area in Spokane, we are putting on a GitHub Copilot bootcamp. So if you are at all interested in this thing called GitHub Copilot and how to make your development life easier, better, actually leverage it rather than just treating it like an advanced Google, this is going to be for you. It is going to be focused heavily on GitHub Copilot, not necessarily all AI experiences, because this is somewhat in collaboration with Microsoft, so this is definitely going that direction. But if you are interested, this is not something that will be live streamed though. So this is in person only. There's the address if you are interested. It's a half-day event, June 19th. So it's going to be a busy few weeks for me. That's going to be exciting. So that handles the where and when of me. Next, I get excited about the dumbest things. Get Kraken kicked out on 11.1.1. And usually when you see this means a bug fix, right? And more importantly, and it made me so happy, this one right here. So I've shown on the stream many times about using the Control-Shift-E that I use to pop open Visual Studio from a repository or into my IDE to make it quicker and easier to launch. That broke in 11.1.0, and now it is fixed. And I am so happy. And then we got some Git executable stuff in there, so huzzah for that. But more importantly, bug fix, and I am thrilled to death about it. So if that was bothering you as much as it was me, make sure you're updated to a version that is all ones, and preferably with an 11 at the front. That will make your life significantly easier. Okay, with all of that said, let's do, there's a couple things in here on the material design project. There are a handful of open PRs that I was going to go through and do, and then I really want to get that T-Unit stuff wrapped up. So we're going to take a run at it. Oh, wait. I had something epic. I had something epic inside of here. Robert, welcome. Yes, this is WPF. Good timing. Good timing. Love seeing you, buddy. Love seeing you. There is, and I'm gonna put this out, and then I am going to dial it back and not show the answer right away. So a colleague of mine sent me the most brilliant little brain teaser. Well, he did not word it in the form of a brain teaser, but that is functionally what it is. So here is the .NET Fiddle. Wait, why aren't you porting this material design over the new mobile framework? If you mean Avalonia, which is my favorite mobile framework at the moment, because somebody else actually already did port material design in XAML to Avalonia. So there's actually, I think it's called material.avalonia that's out there, and it's actually this guy right here. So somebody already beat me to the punch, and they did a remarkably good job at it. So I submitted a couple PRs to it. This is based upon a slightly older version of the library, but what's there is great. So yeah, I know. If I had my 40-hour day, I could totally get it done. All I need is 40 hours in a day. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. Okay, where'd my .NET Fiddle go? Okay, so here is the C# kind of brain teaser thing to think through for a moment, and I'll make this a little bigger. So a few things. I'm gonna go down here real quick. So class with event is shockingly a class with an event. Okay? The event delegate type is declared as action, and there's a little helper bool on here that just says is event null. That checks is the event null. I know this is shockingly good naming. Okay. So here's what we got. We got this event register class and then 2 instances of class with event. We pass the first instance into update 1 on this register class. So what does update 1 do? So update 1, right, takes in the new instance, and I'll have you take special note of this m equals 3. Okay? We check if there is a previous instance, and if there is, we'll go ahead and unregister. We then take the new instance and register up. We cache the instance into something called last instance or previous instance. And that's the end of the function, right? So if we were to pass this same thing in twice, what we would expect is that there would only ever be a single registration, right? The setup here is we only want 1 registration here on this, and we've got this last instance. Okay, so we call update 1 passing first, we call update 1 passing second, and after each of these invocations, we check which one has a null event. So in C#, when an event has no registrations on it, it is null. When it does have registrations, it will be non-null. Right? Multicast delegate is the fancy word you can put into the Googles. Okay, we come down here. We're going to change out the instances for brand new clean instances of both the event register class and then 2 class with events. Then we're going to call update 2 and basically do exactly what we did above. So what does update 2 do? Update 2 does almost the same exact thing as update 1. It checks the previous instance. It unregisters if it found one. It then registers a new handler, and then caches the last instance. Now, we are reusing the same field from the other method, but remember, we got a new instance of this class right before we went into the update 2 code, so there is no crosstalk between those. And the difference here is this local function here, right, writes out that local variable m, whereas this local function here writes out just the string m, because I was feeling funny. Now, the important thing here is to note now the section down here. In update 1's case, we expect after the first call that 1 is false and 1 is true because we registered up on the event on one of the instances, right? So first is the one that we passed in first, and so its event is not null, meaning there is a registration. Perfect, right? Seconds is null, false. But when we get to the second one, both of them have a registration. which implies that the unregister, right, this guy here on update 1 did not work. Now, if we look down here at update 2, we'll see that first is null, first is null is false, which makes sense. The first instance got a registration. Second is null, true, because it has not been registered yet. But then when we do the second call, we'll note that these two invert. First does go to null. It has been properly unregistered. But second is false. It does have a registration. So this is the brain teaser. Why? Why is it that this local function doesn't properly unregister, but this one does? That is the key question, right? And this is where it gets really, really interesting. So I'm going to pause for a moment. If anybody wants to go play with this, the .NET Fiddle is here. And then I'm going to go rebase and do it. And then in a little bit, we'll look at the answer. Because this was a fun one. This was an absolute, as soon as my colleague sent this to me, I started laughing because I stared at it for a minute and went, hang on. And then it clicked. And then I was like, oh, this is brilliant. And then he was like, can you explain what's going on? I'm like, absolutely not. I am stealing this as a brain teaser. So, and then I promptly poached his .NET Fiddle, which was perfect. Right? So this is gold. This is gold. Okay. In terms of that, let's go enhance mouse over visual. Right? So same as 3803, which I think we reviewed a stream or two ago, but for list box item, the material design specs in interactive demo suggest that the cursor should be the hand when hovering over a list box item, which I believe is correct. Yeah, so cursor hover shows this item here, though I do wonder if this is expected for the checkbox. No, because this is the hover state provides a visual cue that the element is interactive. Yep. This seems accurate. Where was I? Here. Let's see. There's an interactive demo here too. Lovely. Though there is one subtle thing that we've done here, right? So I'm going to point something out, right? So Material Design 3 is tab 1. Material Design 2 is the interactive demo. Now, I don't think there's anything of significance here, but it is something to keep in mind, right? And so this is, it does show the hand icon, though it doesn't show the ripple, which is giving me a little bit of pause. But yes, okay. Regardless, I think this is fine. The big question will be on implementation. Let's see, review code and suggest changes. Oh, ensure the remote is not hidden. Well, it probably is. It probably is because I unfortunately hid a lot of remotes. Let's see, I need Corvins not hidden. Okay. You know, it erred, but at least it gave me a useful error. That's what's important. If it okay, so let's see here. So we've got on the theme itself, we are setting the cursor, and the key thing here is we're setting the cursor inside of a style, setter, which allows anyone to override it either with a derived style or simply by applying a direct property assignment to the list box item itself. Either one works. Okay, and so what we have done is we've added an attached property, which is here. I'm going to move myself to the left just to make sure I don't get in the way. And then this needs to be bigger so people can actually see it. And drag this to the side. Why do I not have a split on this one? That's kind of annoying. Don't I get a split? Nah, that'll work. Okay, and so the key thing that I am looking for here when looking at attached properties, I am always looking for owner type to make sure that it is properly set. I am looking at property metadata, specifically for anything that uses framework property metadata that might be set to inherited, because that may or may not be useful. But this seems fairly simple, right? List box item, and then pulls down. Yeah, this is basically exactly as I would expect. Ooh, does this explain button work on the... Oh, look at that. Oh, I am in heaven. I am in heaven, Get Kraken. Thank you. You just made my life significantly easier. Let's see here. How did it do? Introduces this. That's an accurate summary. Added attached property list box item assist. Modified to bind the cursor property of list box item to the list box item cursor property on the ancestor list box. Set the default for list box item to be cursor.hand. Impact introduces a new way to customize the cursor when hovering over list box item elements, which can improve user experience. I really wish it would drop off the which. Like, I only care about the what. I don't like or I guess this isn't Copilot. I think this is Gemini. But this is not like, I don't want the why, darn it. Just the what. Thank you. Let's see. The default cursor for list box item is now hand. This could potentially affect existing applications that relied on the default cursor. No breaking changes are apparent. This is beautiful. Now, it's correct, but I am going to, we have a label in this project for visual breaking changes. Okay, so I would like to view pull requests on GitHub, please, because I need to label this thing appropriately. So for my release notes, I want to make sure this hits the release notes, and I want it to label it as a visual breaking change. And we are going to merge that sucker. There we go. And so just with my automation, putting these on here will make sure that it shows up in the release notes under the visual breaking change collection, because in my opinion, when people update their apps, people care about this. It's not an API breaking change, but if we change the way somebody's control looks or behaves, people will want to know about it in case they would like to go and override it or similar, right? They could go write their own list box item style and set it back to the default if that's what they want. Okay. That handles that. Let's go here. And now that I know that I have the fancy button, oh yeah, we are totally hitting the fancy button. Go on. Impress me. Let's see. Implements multi-selection for and fixes collapsing. The fact that it has an and is interesting to me because we have a lot of tests around this. So I'll be curious what queued that in. Let's see. Add support for multiple selected items by introducing a selected items dependency property and associated logic to keep the UI and underlying data synchronized. Now, for people who haven't seen it, I have a whole stream of videos on this. Let me grab them real quick. This is, I think, one of the few multi-select tree views that is free and open source out on the interwebs. I am not aware of another one on the internet that is not inside of a commercial library. So if anyone has one that I am unaware of, please tell me. But there is 2, 3, 4. How do I capture this? I want to get to this outside of here. Oh. Well, here, I will at least share the, here is the entry point into it. And then just know that there are 5 parts to this video series. This is, if you are interested in building custom WPF controls, I vastly underestimated how long it was going to take me. I thought it was going to be a stream or two. I was an idiot. So, but we got it done. In my opinion, it is one of the coolest and best controls in the library, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I like this. I like this. So warning me of changes here on app.xaml. Let's see. So in the domain, but this is inside the demo, added an observable collection. I don't care as much about the demo, though this one here is interesting to me. Let's see, demo trees and demo design trees. This is one of the things that I love, right? I like when the AI intelligently groups things together for me. This is what AI should be doing. It should be giving me a concise list so I don't have to look at everything, right? I want it to clump and tell me about the stuff. Let's see, a list box is added to selected items to enable their removal. Wait, what? Modify the XAML to selected items to the view model. A list box is added to display the selected items and enable their removal. Interesting. We might go fire up the demo app and take a look then, because that's an interesting way to do it, if that is in fact true. Let's see, implemented the selected items dependency property, including change notifications, synchronization logic to maintain consistency between the visual selection and the selected items collection. Fixes a bug where collapsing a node would remove this. And this is where it gets interesting, because the way this multi-select tree view works is it doesn't use a tree view. It uses a list view and then indents child items based upon where they're at in the tree. So it looks a lot like a tree view, but it's not a tree view. It's a list view. And because it's a list view, you get things like virtualization, which gets to be very interesting, because that means that as you scroll, the UI items may fall off the tree and not exist in the visual tree for the XAML, which gets to be very interesting. And you get all kinds of fun problems. Added a modified tests for the select items and collapsing behavior. Let's see, behavioral changes. Tree list now supports multi-selection. Collapsing a parent node no longer clears the selection of child nodes. Ooh. This gives me pause. We may want to look at this, because there was some very, very specific logic that may not have been apparent inside of there. Dependencies affected. Treeless views behavior related to selection has been significantly altered. Code relying on the previous single selection behavior will need to be updated. Maybe. We will see. And potential minor performance. Interesting. Okay. Let us take a look. Let's see here. How do I get out of this one file? Back. There we go. Oh, that's interesting, because the explain is over the top of this. That is interesting. Interesting. I'm not sure I actually like that. I would like to be able to have access to the explain as well as being able to go through the PR at the same time. That's kind of obnoxious. Okay. Let's see. So these are just an observable collection and a command inside of a demo app. Don't care. Indentation on a for loop to make it consistent. Don't care. Same with these things. This is just formatting. Don't care. Remove item. Checks the item's type. Removes. I'm in the way. Let's see. Command has an implementation. Brings in an item. Checks its type. Calls remove from the observable collection. No problem. This is. I agree with the AI. This looks like an unrelated change. So this one here, this is the only thing that bothers me, is I kind of want to be able to jump straight out into GitHub to leave the comments, but I think we're going to go run the demo app first. This is entirely in the demo app. I'm looking to see where that list box was that it was taught. Let's go side by side on this. I think this will be easier to read. Let's see. So we've got a tree list view, some white space indentation and cleanup, which is all fine. Group box. So this is showing the tree view selected items, which is bound to the same collection, which is fine. And then it has a little icon on there to delete individual items out of there. I'm kind of wondering why we did a separate list box rather than just putting this straight into the... Because we already had a template up here. I'm kind of wondering if it makes more sense just to put the little bin icon right inside of there. But I guess this is partially showing off the selected items as well. That's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. I assume this is going to look real similar. Yep. Assume this is going to look real similar. Yep. The foreground red, I guess this is just on the icon. That's probably fine. Hey, Izzy. We are taking a quick gander at PR out on the material design library. Specifically, this tree view selected items. It's one I think I briefly mentioned last stream, but was diving into and actually going to look at. At some point, we are going to get the T-unit stuff going here in a moment again as well. Okay, one thing I'm noticing here. So one, when I see internal, that gives me a bit of pause. This one, I know why it's internal. This I don't. This looks a bit state flaggy, which gives me pause, and a default value that is technically not necessary, but not a big deal. So let's see, we have selected items property. So if the sender, the dependency object of the change, which tree list view, which is what it should be, right? This is the owner of the dependency property. Every instance of D that comes in should be a tree list viewer derived class. Let's see, checks if it's a notify collection changed event, and then registers up. And then this method here seems interesting. This registers on selection change, so I'll be interested to see the sync method here in a minute. Tree view selection change. So keep the dependency property in sync when the UI selection changes. Interesting. Okay. I do kind of wonder why. Maybe I'm missing something. Because there is sort of selected items, I believe, on the list view already. Maybe but I remember leaving it to do as well. So I'm probably just not remembering something completely. So if there's removed items and it's not collapsing. Oh, I see. Because if we... Oh, this is probably why we need it. Because the way this tree view works, when an item is collapsed, it is removed from... Its children are removed from the visual tree. If we don't keep track of these things separately, we end up... They'll disappear out. That's probably what was intended there. I think that's what was intended. Selected item, selection changed. NB. So for people unfamiliar with seeing something like this inside of a code base, NB is something, I don't know if it exists outside of the United States, but at least in the United States, it is often used in legal documents. It is Latin for nota bene, which means pay attention or note well. It's something I picked up from an old mentor of mine, and so I've done it a decent amount in code bases. And then sometimes people pick it up and think that it's my initials, despite that my initials are not NB. So, you know, there's that. Kevin does not have an N in it or a B. Oh, wait, Kevin does have an N in it. It's good that I can remember how to spell my own name. It's used in the UK too. I see it everywhere. Okay, good. Okay, perfect. So the Americans probably took it from the Brits and brought it over, because I will say this, the Americans are not known for our Latin skills. In fact, I think we are known for poaching little bits of language from a lot of places, and then messing it up and then claiming that it's our own. I think that's roughly on point. Let's see. See the base, yeah, so this is what I was wondering about. The base selected items only contains the visually selected items, which means if it's virtualized and they fall off the visual tree, we'll lose them. Or if they are collapsed. Ha 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 ha. Okay. This is going to be interesting. Another one used is PS and PSS. Okay, so PS I'm familiar with. I'm trying to remember what it is in the Latin, but it's often used at the end of messages or emails, at least here in the U.S. What's PSS? Now I can't remember. Let's see. Postscript is the PS, but what is PSS? Hang on, I will find it. I have an acronym finder. Though the acronym finder is not being real helpful. Because I can just about guarantee some of these suggestions are definitely not right. Oh, another postscript. Oh, got it. Okay. See, I'm learning things. Okay, we're gonna go into here, and let's see. We're gonna start a review. And then this I think is fine. Okay, so let's look at the collection change. So on a reset, blows away, reloads from the base collection. I see. So this is actually reaching down into the base selected items to populate our own. This is interesting to me. Oh, this is the other direction. This is our observable collection has changed. Update the underlying list view selected items. Got it. So on a reset, clear the items, re-add anything that's still in there. Okay. Do the old items. I wonder. I'm trying to think if this could just be a collection expression with just square brace, square brace. The is collapsing item, so this is interesting that this feels weird. It feels a little weird, but we'll go and play with it. And then only add if it's not already in there. I think that makes sense. It mostly makes sense. The more S's on the end, the more amendments have been added. Usually used before rewriting an official document as part of a review. Oh, okay, gotcha. That makes sense, because I've seen similar done where there's often it's either, I think it's called a revisions list or revisions table often that I've seen at the top of documents are similar, but yeah, that makes sense. So this bit here gives me a bit of pause only because the item in this case is something external to the library. This is a a person class from your app. And one of the reasons why I wrote my tree list view the way that I did is because the app in question had a use case where it wanted to be able to track multiple the same instance was added into the tree at multiple points, and each of those things needed to be distinct. This, I think, breaks that, because if I have two person classes and I add them both into the tree at different spots and I go to select one, I think this falls over. So that gives me pause there. Okay, sync UI selected with selected items. So we unregister so that we don't trigger a bunch of changed events. We blow away the clear ones. And then we bring them all in. Yeah, and this one doesn't have the same contains logic, so I think the fact that we've got different ways of adding in here, I think is potentially problematic. But we will check. Okay, so what do we got here? Item expanded change. If a node which has a select child is added, we need to visually select the child. So we're expanding an item, and then it calls the sync UI collection. So what does that do? If I expand a node and I have children, this clears the base selection and then re-adds from our known set. That is an interesting way of doing it. It's probably logically correct, but I do wonder if we could be more intelligent. So, for example, we are inserting these guys here at insert at level. I do wonder if we could simply check if the selected items already contain the child that was being added, because I believe it's this same item here, and then just toggled it. And then here's the use of is collapsing item. Because while collapsing, there is going to be a change in selected items. Because so while collapsing, if an item was a child and is inside, the idea is to not necessarily remove it, even though the selection has changed. This is probably fine. I'm just wondering if a better solution is, rather than the state flag, if we should unregister, re-register during this event. I'm wondering if that would be a cleaner approach. I just don't like state flags. I really don't. They oftentimes get very complex. It's not bad when there's only a few, but the moment the pattern grows, it gets real ugly real fast. Okay, so the data binding example, added selected items, great. Added selected items, great. I approve. We need to be able to see those. Let's see, implicit template, added it in. Implicit template, added it in. Tree view tests. Okay, this is where I'm real interested in seeing this. So let's see here. Cleaned up an extra white space that was in the test name right there. Great, that's fine. Nothing of significance there. See, white space line cleanup, nothing of significance there. Same thing. I am surprised this didn't break any existing tests. I'm real surprised at that. I do think I want to make sure we have a test that covers same instance multiple times. Let's see. Tree list view, selecting multiple items, adds them to selected items, user control type. Get test controls. Wait, was this something I did prior? Or is that just something further down? Where is get test controls? That's something I wrote previously. Oh, look at that. Okay, so it iterates through both of those, whether it's an implicit template or a data binding template. Okay. This is actually 2 tests in one. I accept. Let's do this. This makes it easier to read. Okay, so what do we got? Test recorder, load user control, pull the sucker out, grab this. This all matches, grabs item 1, grabs item 2. Okay, so selecting multiple items adds them to selected items. So we left click on item 1, wait, set keyboard input to do control, left click on 2, and then slight delay. I assume this is to handle the ripple animations. Then we clear the control key press, very important. And then we assert on selected items. And this is something Corvin's asked me about because he was struggling to figure out how to do XAML test because his property is an iList. XAML test can't serialize that back and forth between the WPF project and the test project. So it ends up just failing to generate and won't build one. This remote execute is a backdoor that lets you invoke this method in the context of the WPF app. So this goes through. The only thing that gives me a bit of pause is I don't like if conditions. Because the thing that gets weird is if the data context happens to get changed on one of those controls where neither of these ifs match, this test starts failing or starts passing without running any asserts. So that gives me a bit of pause of like, makes me feel yucky. Makes me feel yucky. I'm slightly inclined to give both of the view models some common interface or something just so I can hardcast both of them because I would hate to stop running asserts accidentally, right? And we could also probably do an else if here as well, but I realize this is kind of a weird one because effectively just checks the assert ones. Okay. When collapsing a parent node, all child nodes are visually removed due to its implementation from the list view. Selected child node should stay in the tree view selected items even when collapsing its parent. I agree with that statement. Let's see. Collapsing parent of selected child does not remove it. So we go here. We add some children to item 2. We expand item 2. We click on item 2. We also then click on the second child inside of item 2. So we should have item 2 plus one of its children selected. We release the control key. And then we assert on selected items. I do want to double check that. I know I said that this assert should work. But I do want to make sure that on a failure, this actually, I think remote execute propagates up the exception. I hope it does. If not, we'll be fixing something. So collapse the parent and then assert on the selected items. So it brings this guy in, asserts that item 2 and child 1 in it are both there. Okay. I think all of this is fine, aside from the double instance case. I don't think the double instance case was well captured in these tests because clearly the rest of these tests passed, which means there is a blind spot in the tests. So we need to address that. So exit review, let's see here. I would like to check out that branch, please. And I'm going to Control-Shift-E to launch Visual Studio now that it works again. Huzzah! Huzzah! Thank you, Get Kraken. You are wonderful. And then we'll open the solution. And then I want to launch the demo app just to take a look at that list box. My XAML head renderer is not as good as I want it to be. Demo apps. Let us start a project. Launch. Come on. Go, 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 go. Just close my email down to make sure I don't accidentally pop it open. That would be embarrassing. Come on. Okay, so I believe it is under trees. Okay, so we have this guy here. So step one is I've got 2 items selected. I collapse. I delete. I expand. I mean, it works the way I would expect. I kind of like the added list box on the side here, only because it gives me a nice, easy way of validating how this is working. So if I do this, so there is a bug here. If I'm just straight left clicking without doing control, it's not clearing these other items. Right? So collapse, left click, I would expect it to clear all the other ones. So that's a potential failure. Let me get a notepad document going here real quick because I wanna make sure I capture all these. So control click, multiple children, left click, single root item. That doesn't properly clear. Okay. That's not bad. I mean, this is one of the more complicated controls in this library, so I'm actually impressed that anybody. See, and it's only when they are collapsed we don't handle the case, right? So it's like once they're collapsed and nested, it's just when we do a selection of a single item without multi turned on, we need to know that they're being replaced. Right? So it is an interesting one to solve. Okay? So that's fine. Do this. I want to add a whole mess of things. All right? So if I select you and expand you, right? If I click here, is virtualization turned on for this one is the question. Let's see here. I think it's on, yeah, because data virtualization is enabled on this tree view by default. Yeah. Yep, that is 100% a problem. That is 100% a problem. So it should have virtualization enabled. I just want to confirm that with Snoop because I just want to validate this thing's behavior. The way we check this is we come over here and we zero in on this sucker and we go, what is this top level item? I look at its content. Test item. VVFN LW. Oh, it's because I didn't select the top one. It doesn't seem like this thing is virtualizing the control. And I'm somewhat shocked to see that because I thought it was on by default. Oh. How many items do we have here? Here to here is, well, I don't know, but if I add a bunch of items, really the question that I'm looking for is, can I add enough items to where this ends up growing? Because how many are displayed here is kind of up to the virtualization engine. Usually there's enough to handle everything that's displayed here, plus a little bit of buffer top and bottom. Right, so if I refresh this sucker, that's all fine. If I expand you, scroll, I clearly have a significantly more items. Okay, so virtualization is definitely enabled. Content. Yeah, so the top one is this. But if I scroll back up, I thought I just saw it. Oh. Something is wonky. Something is wonky. If I select this, then scroll. The fact that the scroll bar just did that worries me. And I scroll back to the top. Just want to see. I got it to disappear when I was scrolling before, and I don't know what I did. And I'm just wondering if I accidentally clicked off or similar. I wonder if this is a change with this PR or if this is something inherent to this tree view. Let's see. Possibly a silly side question. Delayed while I was brushing my teeth. Did I hear you see that GitKraken has or is adding support for Azure DevOps? I'm thinking in relation to merge pull requests. Should be there already, Izzy. I am using it on several work projects for doing doing pull request. The button to click to merge, I might need to double check on because I assume you are talking about when reviewing, if you go to the review, having the no, that's having this finish review, merge PR type buttons. That I'm not as confident if those things exist here, but at least for a lot of the pull request functionality, I believe it's there already. Here, let me double check. If I flip over, sorry, this part I can't show because this is not public. So, but I can jump into a DevOps repo. Oh, interesting. Oh, I see what you mean. You're right. The PR section is not present there. Oh, that's interesting. I did not realize that. Let me go and look. So they have a roadmap here. And then the other place that I often go and look, let me switch this back. So, let's see, it's feedback.getkraken.com. DevOps. Let's see, user stories, bug integrations, pull request view. This is the guy. This is the guy. What I heard is upvote. Don't notify me. Okay. Everyone go upvote that. At least if you're a Git Kraken and Azure DevOps user. Yeah, I will admit. So the part that appears to be missing is the interaction that starts with this pull request section over here. That does not appear to show up on my DevOps repo. Which then consequently, this view doesn't show up there either. This may just be GitHub pull request, but at least the DevOps stuff, the creation of the PR and whatnot, I can tell you absolutely does work. So the standard whoop type situation for being able to open PRs, that works. Okay. I like the side quests though. I definitely do not mind those. But yeah, the lack of that DevOps support bit, if people wouldn't mind upvoting that, that'd be cool. Okay, so this guy here, the scroll bar is a little wonky, but I don't think that is also just upvoted. Thank you, Izzy. Because I will say the Git Kraken team is very good about using that feedback page to figure out what to work on next. Like they absolutely do go through that feedback, things that are upvoted, and it's not necessarily if it gets the most upvotes they're going to implement it. Like it's balanced against, level of effort type situations as well, but it definitely is one of their main indicators of what people are interested in seeing. And so they oftentimes will go through and look and say, oh, like work trees was a big one that I think sat on one of the highest upvoted things for like a couple of years. And it was only because they're like, in order to support it, it had a very fundamental change that was needed, which is part of where we get the Git CLI interaction stuff that came in. So it wasn't that they didn't want to implement work trees. It was that they were like, well, we want to, but we've got this other stuff that's kind of a prereq. Because I talked to him about it. I'm like, I get it. Like, I'm a software engineer too. I understand that it's like I can write a 2-sentence feature that is not a 2-sentence implementation. Like I get it, right? So I understand that sometimes lower voted things get bumped higher up because it's like, well, yeah, this is, maybe half the votes, but it's also like a 10-minute change. Maybe we just go and make those people happier. So, but I will say they are very good about taking feedback. And I've got side chats with some people there as well. So I will poke that at them as well and say, pretty please. Pretty please. Okay. So I don't think that's bad. I think just that control click is the problematic case. That still works. That still works. I don't know that there's anything. Oh, I want to check the. Yeah, because it doesn't clear those. I want to. I want to add a test around this because clearly all the tests passed to get us to this point. But I would like to add one where there's duplicated instances in two places because I don't think it's going to handle that. I kind of want to look at these tests real quick. I thought, oh, treeless. I was like, that's not enough tests. Treeless view test. I thought there was a test in here specifically around duplicate instances. Because I know that the app that I built it for specifically had that as a use case. Let's see. I use the workspace as an easy way to track multiple repos for a system release instead of using a repo with sub repos. Yeah, no, and that's a great way to do it. The other thing, if you haven't seen it, Izzy, if you haven't seen it, there's you're gonna love this. The Git Kraken CLI. So there's this guy here. There's a feature that they are putting in specifically for dealing with multiple repos. Hey JC, good morning. Good morning. So this GK work create. This is a very this is one of those things where when I first saw it, I was like, that's a little weird. But the more I thought about it, I was like, this is an interesting way of solving a common developer problem. So like you were saying, multiple repos, needing to coordinate stuff for release, right? Kind of a pain in the neck, right? The Git Kraken CLI, you can do this GK work create, and the string is kind of arbitrary, right? You can make it be whatever you want. It could be an issue number or just foo. But it goes through and you can see that it based upon what workspace you've set it up to follow. So if you've done GK, what is it? GK workspace select or similar, you can set a default one, or there's options here to pick one. But it will start a unit of work. And as you make changes to those repositories, all of those things get added into that unit of work. And then you can take those and you can do, say, start pull request on the unit of work. And it then knows, oh, okay, I've got changes in 4 separate repos. Start pull request on all 4 repos, right? So you can start to get this. It takes the standard create branch, make change, open PR workflow, and multiplies it. And you can have it target 1 to n repositories to bring it across, which is very slick, very, very slick. I haven't had I've played around with it, but I haven't had a good real world use case, because the multi-repo project I was on, I got kind of shoehorned into doing stuff only on a single repo, and then it didn't it's cool, but I would never use this if there's only one repo at play. Right? So it's it's cool, and I absolutely see a potential for multi-repo stuff. So yeah, if you're using it, check it out. This is an area, the CLI is an area where it's on the roadmap, I think. Where is it? Is it not on here? It's an area where there have been significant investments in the last few releases. So yeah, definitely check it out. Yeah, I have 8 repos for my project that are all linked in some way. Yeah, and that's the thing is, you start your unit of work, and initially what it does is it's watching the repositories that are in the workspace that you select, but it doesn't have to be tied to a workspace. You can kind of go workspace less and just kind of arbitrarily add repos into your unit of work as you go. That is an option. It just means you have to specify extra options on the end of these commands that aren't being shown here. This thing is set up where the user has already effectively said, hey, this is the workspace I'm working in. This is the stuff I want you to track. So now you get the shorthand commands. If you don't do that, and you just have arbitrary repos cloned on your repository, you can still leverage it. It's just you have to add them in one at a time. Think of it doing git commit or git add on individual files as you go, rather than star effectively. But yeah, so this is definitely an interesting thing to do. The other thing that's worth noting, and this is both a blessing and a curse, is they do pass through to the Git CLI, which is cool. But I also found that I typo things, and then I get feedback that was my typo clearly not matching and being fed into the Git CLI under the hood. So it's nice. I just don't care that much that you've saved me one character of typing from typing GIT versus GK. It's an alias. But, it is interesting. Let's see. I have 8 repos for my project that are all linked in some way. That is not including the ones that build the custom child agent Docker images. Whew. Yeah, and that's the thing is it's very nice to be able to manage in some way that whole thing. So, and yeah, workspace friendly. If you've got your stuff in workspaces already, good to go, right? Off to the races. But yeah, the work items, that was the term. I kept calling it unit of work. Sorry. I said unit of work. Replace everywhere I said unit of work with the word work items. This is what I need AI for, is to go back and retroactively fix my stream so that I said the right word. That would be a good use of AI. Yeah. And again, work item, which I don't know how much I love that term. I feel like that's one of those terms in software development that gets overloaded. But yes, if that's what you're doing, definitely check this out because it is a really cool way to do it, especially if you're already using GitKraken stuff. And even people running on the free tier, like several of the commands in the GitKraken CLI work on free tier GitKraken. Now, obviously not everything, but some things absolutely work. Like local workspaces work just fine on free tier. But if you want to start syncing, well, now we're talking about needing accounts and that kind of stuff. So, Okay. We were looking for a test that covered duplicate instances. Expanded child can replace top level child. Can replace nested child element with remove. Left and right click collapse. Insert children to correct index. Remove children from item with already expanded. Should move child. Selecting multiple items adds them. So these are so there isn't a test. Why did I not add a test for this? Why did I not add a test for this? I should have 100% added a test for this. I am an idiot for not adding a test. Because we absolutely should have had items that did this. And I don't know that we have any that don't just blindly use the, let's see, tree view data bindings, testable collection. Yeah. Because we needed something observable here. And the key thing here is this, like adding in the same instance is not as terrible as the fact that record classes exist. Because record classes override your equality. And so you get value style comparisons. With collection view. What does this one do? One of these, I could have sworn I had done it somewhere to cover it. And maybe I did it implicitly on one of these. Did I do it in here? Didn't do it here. This is just using a collection view. Mini4G, welcome. Oh, cool. Yeah. Looking forward to it as well. Do come up and say hi. I will have... Shoot, where did they go? Hang on. If anyone is interested, I will be packing a copious amount of VeloPack stickers. I have, I think, 1,000, maybe more. I don't know exactly because I did an order and it was at least. So I've got something like that. I've given away a bunch already, but I will have stickers if anybody's interested. Yeah, please do, Mini4G. Looking forward to it. Absolutely looking forward to it. Absolutely looking forward to it. Well, I am just shocked that I did not add any items in here. They're all distinct instances. Why did I not do this? Was I dumb? It's possible I was dumb. I cannot eliminate that as an explanation. What is this thing? Does not access instance data and can be made static. Oh, well, thank you. Let's see here. So this is wonderful with some of the new analyzers. So the argument here: do not guard remove calls with contains, because remove returns a Boolean. If it's not in there, it will just return false. So doing a contains and then a remove is just wasteful. Absolutely just wasteful. Okay, anything else in here? Good. Okay, so that is problematic. I think what I want to do is I want to check in a couple failing tests, and then I will let Corvin's run with this. So let's put in a test for the failure case of collapsing and then clicking outside. Tree list view data binding. So we can probably just grab this as a starting point. And then I just want to do one thing really quick of throw new exception, foo. And I just want to make sure, 2 for now. I just want to make sure that this thing properly fails the test, because it's always, I'm fairly confident remote execute on a thrown exception will propagate an exception back, which is all that really matters for the purposes of the test. But I don't know if it'll propagate the right exception. So it did the thing. Good. Good. Excellent. System exception food. Perfect. It even propagates the right. Mwah. Okay, we are cooking with fire now. Okay, so we can use this as our fallback. Okay, so this is going to go through add button, get item 1, get item 2, add 3 children to item 2. Left click on the expander. I don't need to left click on item 2 itself. Let's see. Expand the second item. Let's see. Select the second child. So we're going to go control, left click. I guess we don't even need control here because we haven't selected anything yet. So, and then I want to collapse see, collapse the parent item. So I want to do this guy here. Just going to do this. And then I would like to, let's see, left click on item 1. This should cause the previous selection to clear. All right, so we are going to do await, item 1, left click, boom, and then we'll add in the same delay for the animation because it's annoying, and then remote execute, assert selected items. We don't need any of this, I don't believe. So the expectation here is then that selected items should be 1, and actually I think what I want to do is I want to do this, and I realize the more X unit I write, the worse I've made my T unit refactor, but you know what, darn it. So this is one of the cool things about collection expressions is I have subtly just changed my test from because before I would write code that's like assert collection count is 1, and then now that I know there's only one item, check that the 0th item is inside of here. Well, what I can do instead now is we can go through and say make a collection and then assert that this collection matches this collection. Now, this can obviously throw if the collection's empty because sub-0 no longer matches, out of range, all that jazz. That's fine. A thrown exception, even if it's an out-of-range exception, isn't an assert failure, but it's still a test failure. And so I'm a little less, like sometimes people write their tests in ways to try to dodge exceptions. And I don't know that I care that much because a failure to an assert is just a thrown exception. And the only difference is what type of exception and the messaging that goes along with it. So if the messaging isn't significant, then I don't care. Let the regular exception propagate up. Same with like these hard casts. If the data context changes such that this cast would fail, I'm not using an as or a pattern match or any of that stuff. Nah, straight hard cast, because if this changes, I don't mind a cast exception bubbling up. Like this should cause my test to throw an unhandled exception and crash. Okay, but this test now, what I expect it to do is I expect it to have a collection of 2 inside the selected items. And so, this is actually not quite right. Because this is only going to see? As I talk through it, I realize I'm an idiot. Because I actually want to do something more like select X value. So I want to verify that all of the items, not just the first one. So then if it's empty, this will handle it nicely. Huzzah. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. Mini4G, are you interested in becoming a Microsoft MVP, or is it just meet and greet is what you're mostly interested in at the conference next week? Oh, look at that. It's so glorious. The test failed. Oh, I love it. Yeah, see? There we go. Exactly the failure we saw in the UI replicated here, right? The nested item is still in the selected items despite the fact that the expectation should be 1. Perfect. We have written a test to capture the failure we are aware of. Excellent. Now, I should change this description and the test name. Let's see. Collapsing parent and moving selection clears selection from hidden node, hidden child node. There, and then we don't need the description on this since I think the test name covers it. Okay, now the last thing I want to do is I want to see, yeah, so a bit of both, to be honest. I'd love to know more about the path, what the path to MVP looks like, and if it's something I realistically have the time to dedicate. Morning select ion missing. So for you, Mini 4G, yeah, no, I think it'll be perfect. So Justin, who is going to be doing the, um, oh, thank you. Uh, yes, I will go through and fix that in just a second, JC. But for the MVP stuff, Justin, who will be doing the kind of introduction to the program, is going to be kind of outlining what the program is, kind of some basic stuff that what it goes to, and then there's four of us MVPs that were effectively asked to share a bit of our story about the MVP program and what uh, they left it kind of open ended, but things around, what benefits we see, what we do to maintain it, that sort of thing. So, yeah, and at least a couple of them I've interacted with before, really great people. So, definitely come with questions. It is trying to think of how to word this properly. The MVP is definitely something that can occupy a significant amount of time, but it doesn't always have to. It's a lot about having influence, and but there's a lot of ways that people go about doing this, and it's sometimes hard to describe. And I was really happy that they brought in kind of a bunch of different MVPs so that hopefully people kind of get that picture that there's not just one kind of clear path forward. Oftentimes it's like, oh, well, I have to be like Kevin or so and so in order to become an MVP. It's like, well, no, I mean, you could, but there's lots of different ways that people kind of go about getting it. And so if it seems like maybe you aren't getting a straight answer on some questions, it's because there's kind of multiple answers. So it's like nobody wants to put anybody in a box and say, well, you must do X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, you kind of have some choice here. But yes. Uh, let's see. So tree list view, collapsing parent, and moving selection. Thank you. Thank you, JC. I will say you have an eagle eye for catching my coding mistakes, so I appreciate that. Okay. So this guy fails with the appropriate failure. Now, the next one I want to cover, and I don't know whether this one's expected to pass or fail, but I want to make sure that it works. Specifically because the implementation gave me pause. And so let's see here. I want to go to tree list view. Let's see. Okay, and I think this guy here will just make private. We'll get this off there. And as long as this still compiles, that should be totally fine. Like, I'm not overly thrilled. The other thing that's worth calling out here is this new keyword. This is something that is often to be avoided in C# because it's kind of like overriding a member, but not, right? And so if and I'll explain. Oh yeah. Shut up. So 2, right? So the key difference here is tree list view, right? If I do tree list view dot selected items, right? If I control click on this, I should land right here, right, on our property. Here's where it gets problematic. List view LV gets tree list view, right? And if I do LV dot selected items, right, and then I go, I land somewhere different, right? Despite the fact that both of these variables here, this one and this one, are both the exact same instance, which property I invoke is entirely dependent upon the type of my member, which is not the same for an override. If we were able to override this, they would both end up in the same place. So now in this case, I think it's appropriate because there's no other reasonable way to do it because the base isn't virtual. Like WPF did not think about people doing this when they built this 2 decades ago. So and I think the odds of people getting into that situation in this case are low. So it's perfectly fine. Most of the time you'll see people advocate for, we'll rename it, but in this case, selected items really is the right name and what we expect. And so overriding this sort of situation, I think is the right way to handle this. And I shouldn't use the word override. I know I just said it twice, and that was wrong and incorrect. Okay, so this example here, I need to find if I have a good way of giving myself an injection point. I think what I want to do is I think I want to give myself one more button to abuse, I think is what I'm going to do. I think that's the path of least resistance without breaking my world. And because all we've done is add in all these buttons. So I think I'm just going to do add duplicate. And then we'll do add duplicate on click. And we'll just go implement it. And that way I've got it. This is one of the areas with XAML test where it's not always trivial to get inside of these things. And we could do the remote callback situation, but that just feels wrong. Let's see. Add dup. So what I really want to do is add duplicate item. So what we are going to do is something a little akin to this. So add duplicate item. And we're not going to have an else case. We're just going to do this. So if the selected item, because before this was adding a child there, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to but this always nests, and I don't think selected item knows its parent, does it? Oh, it does. Oh, lovely. Selected. So, and then we need to do if selected item dot parent is pattern match it out. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, so this is getting me pretty close. But what I would like to do is I would like to add select, rather than creating a new one here, I want to add selected item right back into the tree. So there are two instances of selected item. Okay. That should get me there. Because I think, given the implementation here, fix this, because I think we will push a small change up. Oh, I wanted to check. Can I replace this like this? Oh, yeah, it's because this doesn't support generics yet. And I say yet, it likely never will. Yeah, because it's a non-generic iList. That's actually a good point. We don't need to make this an iList, but we don't know the type, so the best we would end up doing would be object here anyway, which isn't really going to bias anything, so whatever. Okay, so let's go back to the test now that I've got a way of doing this. And then add, I need to get the duplicate button. Duplicate. And then we will grab item 1. And then I don't think I want any of this. Okay. So I want to click on item 1. To select it. Add to duplicate. We should call this add duplicate. All right. Add 2 duplicates to the tree. So we're going to click, and then I think what I want to do is actually deselect. Ooh, this is interesting because this is item 1. I think what I want to do is then grab the second one, the second duplicate that I added. So after doing that, because let's see, there is item 1. Don't forget to rename the test after work. Oh, thank you, JC. Thank you very much. Adding duplicate items, and selecting them allows for selection work, I guess. No problem, Mini 4G. Yeah, I will see you build. Looking forward to it. Okay, so this is item 1. We're going to insert at the same index. So items 2, it should be item 3. Let's see. New item. And I want to do new item left click. And then I want to assert on the selection. Oh, but this is going to blow away the other one. I think what I want to do is I want to do the multi-select. So let me go up here and steal a little bit. Is I effectively want to do this. Right? Is I want to do this, but I want you to live up here. And I don't think there. So we're going to control click. I should give myself an API to make control click a little easier. The fact that I have to do this is kind of annoying, but whatever. Okay, so I expect this is 1, 1 from the selected items. Let's run this. I think this one fails and only shows a single item. But I think 2 items show up in the selected item. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. And I will say there is technically a workaround for this. Is you combine the selected property of the list item itself rather than having something at the top level. Failed to find. Oh. Okay, so let's go here. And I want to grab it here, and I want to make sure, are we attach debugger false? So let's debug this test. The breakpoint will cause the unit test process to pause, but we'll leave the WPF process running so we can interact with it. Okay, so it did add 2 duplicates. And I guess I just want to test here. Yeah, see, when I click on these, it's not allowing. Oh, so the control click works. The control click absolutely works, but single click doesn't. So maybe what I should do is I should actually go. Oh, it's very interesting because the item will show selected. Oh, it's interesting that if I go down and then up, it's fine. But if I click here, it wants that one. If I go here and here. Oh, is it because... No, that doesn't make sense. Because all of these are the same... All of these ones are the same instance. So why is it failing to find sub 3? 0, 1, 2, 3. There should be 3 in there. Is it just that it executed too quickly and it didn't find them? Nope, get out of my way for a second. I just want to... yeah, that should work. I wonder if it just executed too quickly and failed to find them. So if I step here, yeah, I'm gonna go with it just executed too quickly and we just needed to give it time. Okay. So the control clicking should work. I am curious, what does it show for the selected items in this case? Right, so if I go up to my tree list view and look at selected items. And go data context. Let's just go here. Count 1. Right, and I think that's one problem, is that count 1 fails to work. Is this solvable, is the question. Is this solvable? Because if virtualization is turned on, there is no good way to know, right? I don't think this contains is correct. I think this contains needs to be removed. Maybe we'll just drop that to begin with. Because that's more in line with, same with here. But if the same instance or the same item that is equal to another item, and we're using instance equality right now because that's the common case, but it could be a record class that has value-based equality. And so it could be 2 separate instances with the same values. If 2 items are equal, one was selected and you scrolled far enough that the UI item was removed, and then you went back, how would you know which one was selected? How would you know which one was selected? I don't know that you would be able to tell the difference. You would have to know the selection path. You would have to know the selection path. I should probably leave a comment on this once we push it. I'm just trying to think if there is a way to do this. We have the concept of getting the parent object. Get expanded. Clean some of this up. get container from item. I don't know that it is reasonable to expect that we could reselect these. But I think without those contains, I will get a much more consistent behavior. So let's test that theory. Let us test that theory. Because if I debug this again, I should be able to see both of the duplicate items in there. And I should be able to click around and see the selection work. Because the failure case is with virtualization and scrolling off. Right? Like that is, if I click here, 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 that's bizarre that that behaves that way. Why would it do that? Why would it do that? So I think it's here. Nope. Here. I'm pressing the up and down arrow keys. Up, 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 up. Yeah, there's something funky around this. Let's try it without the Let's try it before we click the add dupe, because I think it works fine. Yeah, so the up down arrow keys work. So this thing just straight up fails. This thing really does not work well with the duplicate items. I am tempted to turn off the selection stuff and see if that makes a difference. Let's see here. This thing still has, right? And then we're gonna do here, here, here. That should effectively kill it. I want to see what the behavior is without those changes. But specifically, I want to see it without those changes, but with my adding duplicate node button. Because I don't know. I think if you care about duplicate instances, you will have to bind is selected on the individual item, because I don't think there is another way around it. Which, yeah, I just don't know if that works. Okay, so now we go back to here. Yeah, so the arrow keys work just fine. Okay, so I think let's add a test for those. Let's see. Free list view, adding duplicate items. And selecting with arrow keys selects each item in turn. All right, so we're going to do this same setup, but I think what we're going to do here is Let's see. We're going to grab, this is item 1. We're going to grab item 0. And then I think what I want to do down here, I want to go item 0 dot left click. And actually, maybe I don't even need to do that. We can come down here, actually, and just do a for loop. For int I equal to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. Now, in general, loops are things to be avoided in tests. However, in this particular case, this is a hard-coded condition, and so I know how many times it's going to iterate. So I don't really feel as bad about it when there's a fixed condition like that. Let's see. Item. Let's see here. Actually, we want to do item 0 left click first. And then we want to basically check item and then arrow down 5 times. Right? So we want to send keyboard down, select the next item, and then here we want to, oh, this is interesting because I can't, it's going to be slightly, okay, it's not worth doing it in a loop. All right, so we're going to send keyboard down, and then we are going to, let's see, assert selected items, but I want to pass in expected. All right, so I'm going to pass in expected here. Oh, but I can't pass in expected. Oh, this is so dumb. The reason I can't pass in expected is remote execute doesn't allow for capturing of values. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Should be that. But it is going to be losing its mind because it will not know the generic parameter. So I'm going to have to tell it string array. And then it'll figure it out. But given that, is that the right order? I think it is actually expected that this goes like this. And then my remote execute figures out the order of operations. Just want to make sure I'm hitting the right overload. Remote execute. I realize there's delegate parameter, but list view, remote execute. There's overloads that are extension methods. So this is action tree list view T1. Oh, so I need this to be tree list view like that. And now this should go to the right place. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. That is what I'm looking for. Okay. And it should be able to serialize a string array because it's just JSON serialization. Okay, so we're going to do this. We are going to first assert that we have item 0, and then down, then we're going to assert item 1. Then we are going to effectively replicate this a couple times. Let's do for int I equals 0, I less than 0, 1, 2, 3 times. Okay. Down, assert, and then we're going to do one last time, which expects a 2. Right, and this is the behavior we expect. And then we get rid of all this. There. So let's make sure this test, I believe, passes. until we go and re-enable the code inside of the custom control. And then I think we will flip and go back. That went in the wrong order, didn't it? It did. Why did it do that? Oh. System is object of type string cannot be converted to type system string. What? Am I the only one that doesn't see the string? Binder invoke remote execute object params. Wait a minute. This should be going to here. Oh, is there a bug in this? No, because it should wrap this up and wrap it up in. These are all the T result ones. So funk. Here's the action ones. We expect that we are in action T1, T2. Remote execute new object, param1. That makes sense. That goes into the remote execute there. Interesting. Interesting. Have I shot myself in the foot here? So let's debug the test really quick. I just want to check it. So that is in the state we expect. If we do remote execute, it throws and dies. Visual tree service, so it makes it all the way there. Oh, did it serialize it as a string? Oh, it serialized it as a string. Oh, I'm so bad. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this. We're gonna make it of type string. Make it, because I'm only passing a single item, so it doesn't matter for this. We can do this. We can do this. We can just make it a string. We can make it a string. And then down here, we can just do the collection expression like that. Run test. This should just work. And then I'm going to switch back and we'll talk brain teaser bits. Why did that selection appear to go back to the top? Interesting. Collections differ. Okay. That's what we expect is an assert failure. So we expected 0, got nothing. Select iList iterator, empty collection, no match. This has all of the stuff turned off though, so it may not work properly. Aha. So now, with those appropriately defined, this now works. Okay. But I think the key thing here is adding in the duplicate items should still work. I'll have to think about how this one should work. I think I'm going to push up some failing tests for Corvin's. Let's push that up real quick. So move my big fat head to the other side. And then let's see. So tree list view, I don't know that I want all of these changes. I would like that one. I don't want that one. I don't want that one. I do want this one. I do want this one. I do want this one. And I do want this one. The rest of the ones, I think I discard. Okay. And then collapse of the bar. Okay, so we want this. We want this. We want this. I do not want this. That's fine. New tests are fine. Clean up there. Okay. Go ahead, Kraken, write me a commit message. No, we're getting rid of this. Let's see. Adding example failing tests. Adding fixing minor code issues. Commit. And I'm just going to push that, and then I will message Corvins to have it go. Okay. Brain teaser time. Brain teaser time. So for those people who weren't here at the beginning, I will share a link. This is a .NET fiddle. This was unfortunately something from a colleague. And the question was simple. What the heck? Or I'm paraphrasing, but basically that. So here's the premise. We have got a class, right? Class with event. It has an event. It has a helper property that just checks if the event is null. So in C#, events are what are called multicast delegates, effectively a list of methods, what you can think of them as. And when you have not registered anything for the event, it goes to null. When you unregister the last handler, it goes to null. When there is at least one registration, it is not null. That is what this is checking. Okay? So that is our class with event. We have this event register class, which we'll look at in just a second, and we create two of our class with event instances. And then we go to our event register class and call update1 on first. We then do some quick checking on whether first event is null and second event is null. We call update1 a second time and then redo the checks. Okay, keep that in mind. Let's go look at what the update1 method does. So the update1 method comes in, and I will point out this m equals 3 real quick. Local variable. But then here, we check if there is an existing instance, and if so, we're going to unregister the event. The minus equals right here, right? We then register up a new handler for the event, and then we cache our last instance. Those are right up here in this field. All right, so this is what update1 does. And remember, we call this twice, once with the first instance and once with the second instance. This kind of pattern here is usually done so that you only get a single registration for the event. In this case, it's kind of popping between two instances, which is interesting, but it's nothing overly fancy. However, I will point out down here, right? So these first two are the first invocation of update1. And at the end of that, we see that first is null is false, which is kind of a double negative, but it means that first has an event registration. Great. Second is null, which means it does not have an event registration. That is as expected. However, what is unexpected here is that on the second call, both first and second have an event registration, meaning this guy here did not appropriately unregister the event from the first instance. Okay? Did not appropriately unregister because both of these things are false. We go back up here. We go into round 2 of this, right? So we're going to look at this section. So we get brand new instances on both of these guys, right? So everything's brand new, clean slate. We're off to the races. We're going to call register class. We're going to do update 2, passing in first, same kind of output. Update 2 with the second instance, same kind of output. Same thing that we did, only changes the call to update 2 instead of update 1. Okay, let's go down and look at what update 2 does. Update 2 is almost identical to update 1. You will note, once again, we check if there is a previous or last instance. And if so, we're going to unregister. We're going to register up on the, ooh, that was horrible. We're going to register up on the new instance, right? And then we're going to cache the previous instance. But the key difference is down here, you will note this actually did what we expected. Right? So in this case, after the first invocation, first has a registration, but second is null. And then on the second pass, first registration has gone back to null, so it has properly unregistered. And second is now the one with the event registration on it. So this one worked properly, but the other one didn't. So I showed this earlier on in the stream. So if anybody wants to avoid spoilers, you've got about 5 seconds to pause or mute me before I start giving away spoilers. All right, so the fiddle's in the chat if you want to mess around with it. The only difference is the m equals 3. That is 100% correct, Izzy. There's technically an inconsequential difference where this local function, and I shouldn't say inconsequential, but I will point it out. So the m equals 3 right here, m is used in the console write line inside of the local function. That is relevant. Down here, rather than there being a local variable, this console write line just writes out the string m, which is obviously different. One's going to show you an int. The other is going to just show you the string m. But yes, that is the only consequential difference. And this is one of those cases where I'm confident my colleague probably backed into this by accident and then got very confused as to the behavior. Closure versus no closure. Ooh, yes, Bananatron. Bananatron is on point. Absolutely on point. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, that is correct. The magical keyword to put into the Googles is going to be closure. Right? So if we take this and go one step further with it, hang on, I've got a link. Made a link. Okay, so if we go and look at Sharp Labs, so Sharp Labs, oftentimes people will use it to look at the IL, but I'm not going to make you look at that. If you take Sharp Labs and you set it to C# up here in the results, one, dark theme versus light theme, just saying. But what it will show you is the decompiled C#. Yeah, lowered C# for the win. Bananatron, you are hitting all of the marks. So this is the C# as it's decompiled from the IL. The key part here is it shows that lowering. It effectively shows you what the C# would potentially look like without any of the compiler optimizations plugged in. Right? So we can see the class with event has a whole bunch of stuff in here. Right? Most people think of writing events just very simply like this. Right? It's just very simple. Whereas secretly, events are like properties where you've got your get sets. It's just that events have add, remove, and very rarely do people actually do anything custom in the implementations. It's almost always just the shorthand stuff. This is something we've had since C# 2 or 1. Might have to check. One of those. Very early on, right? So all kinds of, and you can see these are compiler-generated attributes. The compiler's done some awesome optimizations for us where we don't have to think. Great, huzzah, right? That's what we're looking for. Now, the key comes down here, the event register class. So here's where we're going to see the difference between update 1 and update 2. And I'm going to look at update 2 first. So one of the key things to know about with delegates in C#, and delegates have the concept of a method info, and is it called owner? I'm gonna get this right. I want the actual delegate. This is not the thing that I'm looking for. Source, and I want the literal delegate class here. Yeah, that'll work. Target. That's the guy that we're looking for. Target and method info, because that is functionally what makes up a delegate. It's, I need to invoke this method info on this given target instance, right? That is relevant. Let's see. Bananatron, I believe another way to think of lowered code is removing all the syntactic sugar newer language feature versions have given us. Yes. And I think this is one of the areas where C# gets simpler as new versions come out, but without this knowledge of what's happening under the hood, you kind of lose a little bit of that. And I'm going to plug this one more time because I can. So that history, I think, is very important to kind of understand. And obviously, I don't have time to go into all the nitty-gritty details, but it is absolutely going to be a key theme going through this talk of kind of all of the C# features moving along, because I think understanding the latest features sometimes requires understanding how we got there in order to kind of see that behavior. But yes, I like that description. Okay, so on update 2, when we create a delegate as snug. So quick side story. I was a member of the LinkedIn.net user group, still am, for a very long period of time, and everybody always called it lidnug. I never really considered snug as the way to do this, but darn it, I think now that is going to be stuck in my head. Could one say it's the C# v1 backwards compatibility for latest features that are just syntactic sugar? Maybe, kinda. Like, there are some. This is where it gets hard, because some changes are compiler, some changes are syntactic sugar, some changes require runtime updates. So, kinda, maybe, some cases. But for update 2, the key thing here is it's creating this new action, which is a delegate. And so when we see a delegate, the most important thing is to look at, okay, what is the method info and what is the target? And in this case, the method info that's being fed into it is this compiler generated internal static. So it has taken our local function. I realize my big head, I'm trying to keep it out of the way. This local function here has been turned into this little guy over here. And you'll note it's just a static function, but it's compiler generated. So the compiler enforces that this local function isn't called outside of the function that declared it. But you'll also note that this guy here doesn't have a target. Like there's no instance for this thing to be invoked on, because this is just a static void function. Okay? And so you'll note the plus equals and the minus equals were all good. Now, if we go to update 1, this is where the closure happens. Because this function up here, right? This guy here has console write line M, right? This little local variable, because it's referenced down here, in order for this function to be able to know what the value of M is, it has to be able to close over that variable, or to think of it another way, capture that variable so that it has access to it at the point it needs to go invoke this. So to do that, the compiler ends up creating this private little class, and inside of it is M. right? If this local function used multiple variables, we'd see multiple things in here because it has to close over all of them. Then when we invoke update 1, we can see it just news up a new instance of this private class. It sets the M field on it to say, hey, by the way, M is 3. And now when it goes through to do the invocation, what it ends up doing is it's pointed to this function, which is not static. So we've got a method info and now a target instance that we're going to go against inside of this action. The key part here is this instance, the only thing holding on to this little private class's instance is this event, right? Because the instance goes into this delegate, gets registered here, and when we leave this method, the only thing holding on to a reference to this class is this delegate. And the only thing holding on to this action delegate is this event. This is often where people get bit with events in C# causing memory leaks because they don't realize that when they register for an event, it has to create an instance of the delegate that matches the event signature. And that delegate may capture the target instance where the method is declared. So if it's an instance method, it's going to capture the target of it so that it can actually invoke on that instance. But that means your event is now holding on to a reference of another thing because it needs that instance in order to invoke an instance method on it when that event is raised. Whereas if that target method is static, there is no instance, there is no reason to do any of the capturing. Everything just works, right? So the other thing that I will point out down here is if you put the word static on this, and this is one of the things that bothers me the most, right? If you put static on a local function, this doesn't actually make the method static. It's going to, but it's not quite the same. The key thing here is this method is now going to be deny you the ability to accidentally close over other variables. And that's the key thing. Like, because it doesn't close over variables, then it's generated as static. But it's a little bit different than when we just declare a static method, right? So oftentimes, if you are able to, it is a good idea to consider declaring methods as static. There's nice little, and emphasis on minor, performance bumps that you can pick up by having a method be static rather than instance, which is why you'll see the Roslyn analyzers flag a method. It's like, hey, you aren't touching any instance members. If you declare this as static, you'll get a small bonus. Do you want to do that? Sure, why not, right? Unless you've got something that maybe is reflecting or otherwise. It's a great little thing, right? But with local functions, what it does, or I should say one of its primary purposes, is to prevent accidental closure over variables, right? And local functions closing over variables isn't actually a problem. Like, this type of pattern of leveraging local variables inside of a local function is quite common. I've seen people do this when they're like, I don't want to write a private, like, I'm going to write a local function because I don't want to write a private function and pass in 4 variables. I've got them all right there in context. I'm just going to write a little local function that I can invoke whenever I need it inside of this other method. Fine, great, but it's important to understand how it works, because that implementation of how it's working and closing over that variable subtly starts to matter when you start doing event registrations to external instances being passed in, because this thing is mutating a passed in parameter and sending out a reference to a private instance that you may not have expected it to do. Izzy, have a good one. Always good to have you around. No stream next week, so it'll be 2 weeks out. So that is the full solution. I don't know if my colleague's on and paying attention, but if not, they'll be getting snippets of this later. But that is the full explanation of what is going on. So magical keyword closure is, I think, the one that will land you on the most useful information. Good, Victor. Did the explanation make sense? Did I miss anything? Is there more that needs to happen? Because one of the questions that got raised was, oh, well, should I always declare my local functions as static? It's like, well, no, because sometimes they're really useful to have non-static local functions that close over variables. Like, they can often clean up your code and make it easier to read and all that kind of stuff. But it's just important to note how they are working. Yeah. No, as always, much deeper than requested. Well, you know what? You can't put interesting code in front of me and not expect me to do that. If you don't want me to do that, don't give me interesting code. I love interesting code. So this type of thing is a really awesome example. I thought it was perfect. So you came up with a very good brain teaser, and you did stump several people that I threw this in front of. So it was fun watching people's head hurt for a little bit when they stared at it and went, wait, what? But yeah, so yes, closure is the magical thing to do. And the other big detail that I would point out is that plus equals on an event is effectively calling new instance of a delegate. Right? That I think is the other really key thing is plus equals will always translate into new delegate instance. Right? It may not always be action. It depends on whatever your delegate type is up here. Right? It could be event handler, it could be insert type here. Right? But that is the key bit of kind of what is going on and expected in here. So plus equals will always create a new action. Minus equals will remove the action if this matches, right? The key part is for the delegate to match, the target and the method info have to match. And so if you do something like this, right? This new action is not the same as this action because they have different target instances, right? Because this new guarantees that each call to update one is going to have a new closure functionally. Like that's one way to look at this is, and now that I say that, I do wonder if that's the reason the compiler names it C double underscore is I wonder if the C is for closure. That would be cool. I don't know if that is. I just know the compiler likes to do this kind of garbage because this is invalid C#, but not invalid IL. So it's a nice way for the compiler to make a really good assumption on what won't conflict with any of your private classes or members. But I do wonder if it's that way, or maybe it's just C for class. Who knows? But this does give, because this is a new instance, the target of each of these actions is a different instance, which of course those don't match. And then off to the races. I did just realize these have pipes in the name. I never noticed that before. I'm going to remember that for next time I'm mucking around in IL, that I can use pipes in my method names. Not good information for me to know. Absolutely not good information for me to know. Okay, well, I think I am going to crash a little early. I got to be up early and get a bunch of documentation written. So that's going to be very, very exciting. Not really, but it needs to get done. It needs to get done because next week I will be at Build Conference. So once again, if you haven't signed up for the Build Conference, highly recommend it. Signing up at least gives you access to all of the virtual sessions and recordings and whatnot, and it's free. So if you haven't done it, I recommend doing so. It will be a lot of very good, useful information. Anyone in person, I will be there. I will be speaking at the, well, here, do I still have it up? I don't. I will be speaking at the So You Want to Be an MVP session, the session planner. You can search and find it. You'll even find my picture there now. Yay. Along with a few other MVPs. So it'll be a great time. So after that, stream again in 2 weeks. That I'll tell everybody happy coding. Thank you for coming in and hanging out. We'll see everyone next time. Thanks, Bananatron.